it's Jill Tiney with Simon Wellsted, my special guest today, and this is the Journey of Possibility podcast for BeCollaboration. And today we're going to be talking more around collaboration, because this is something that Simon is really into in a whole industry. Simon has been a collaborator relatively recently. I think it was beginning of the year, wasn't it, Simon, that you got involved? What was it initially, as we've asked a lot of our other collaborators, what was it initially that kind of made you go, this is interesting, I'd like to get involved in it?
Probably because the language that was being used by the people that introduced me to the group was the language that I use all the time in what I'm trying to build. So there was an instant synergy in terms of language. And I think that's repeated itself pretty well at every meeting I've been. There's always been some language used by somebody in whatever's being presented that actually is pretty well exactly what I believe in, what I try to say myself in my own context. So, which is why I say I'm trying to build BeCollaboration in an industry.
Yeah. And we're trying to build it out of industry. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but and you're trying to do it specifically in an industry as well. So tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your journey? How did you get to where you are now? When did you start? What was your first foray into work? When did you start working? 18, 21, 16?
21, 22. Went into IT because that was my love at the time, and I put that now in quotes really. Worked my way through, developing and programming and all that sort of thing. Became a consultant, and then ultimately joined one of the top 5 consultancies as a specialist in IT security.
Okay.
So IT security governance, working with a lot of the government organisations that we're not allowed to talk about, but we do. So that type of security work, and I did it for sort of 25, 27 years, something like that, maybe 30 years.
So did you choose to go into that from uni, or did you fall into it, or was it something that you had a burning desire to do?
It's what I did at uni, and it was what I loved at the time.
Yeah, so you did love it. I mean, a lot of people kind of fall into jobs, don't they, as they leave school or uni, and it's like, and they stick with it because it's a decent income, or it's more money than they care to throw away, and the options are just not worthwhile. But you actually had this, you went to uni to do something you loved, and you left uni and got a job in something you loved. So no wonder you were there for quite a good time. What disillusioned you?
Really interesting. I started to realise that personally I didn't fit. The industry had changed, consultancy had changed. My final company that I was working with was one of the top 5 consultancies. When I joined it, I joined a specialism area. It wasn't security at the time; it was a different area. But we were taken on as specialists, and we worked in specialist teams. What happens, and has happened in the consultancy arena, is they're trying to now create what they call the rounded consultant. So you're expected to be able to be good at everything. So in the previous sort of context, you'd get pulled in specifically as a specialist to do something on a particular project. In the new world, you were expected to basically be involved in winning the business, tendering and winning the business, building the bid, and then you get moved on to the project and all the way through the life of the project. And
I can see how that might be interesting for some people, because it's not just, you're not a little silo of doing that bit and then moving on to something else. You actually get to see it from creation to conclusion.
Yes, I can see that, but from my point of view, it was I was being cajoled to become good at things that I really wasn't interested. They weren't me. I wasn't wired to do things, So it basically sort of over a period of time was just became disillusioning. And the fact that there's a hell of a lot of travel involved in consultancy. I mean, I was literally Scotland, Cornwall, and everything in between, and sometimes abroad. And I put the stop to the international travel quite a few years ago. But when you're expected to be in Scotland for 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday morning, and you have to catch the red eye sort of up to Scotland and whatever, and or wherever it might be, it gets to you after a while, living out of a suitcase in hotels and whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So
I'm not going to say I'm not going to say it's a young man's game, because that's. But hey, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, I think travelling and living away from home, if home is important to you, and you're not given an opportunity to explore the places you get to go and see. It's a bit like being working on an aeroplane, isn't it? It sounds so glamorous. You get to see all these different countries, but you don't, do you? You just kind of get there, do your thing, and come back again. So
you get paid after a while.
Yeah. So once you've been disillusioned and you started looking around, did you look around for another job, or what was the impetus to get you to do what you're doing today?
Well, I used to play sport. I used to play badminton at quite a high level, and I got myself injured quite a while ago, and went through a bit of a process because nobody could actually find out what had caused the problem, and what everybody had their little take on. I saw lots of different people, and everybody had their little take on what was wrong, and actually none of them were right. Now I know that none of them were right.
Right.
So I trained up in sports injury rehab and soft tissue work while I still had a good salary.
Yeah.
Did all the expensive training while I was still earning a good salary. And to be fair, I was waiting for them to put money on the table to say who wants to go, which they used to do on a regular basis. But sod's law, they didn't do it for 3 or 4 years when I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
So I was waiting to go, but waiting for the right moment to go.
And you got there in the end.
I got there in the end. Yeah.
So then that made you start your own business, or go and look for another job?
No, I went and started my own business, set up a clinic, and started working in the sort of injury rehab and soft tissue field.
And how did that pan out?
It was okay. I mean, none of us, when we get trained in whatever, especially in my industry, nobody gets trained how to run a business.
No.
We get trained how to do what we're being trained to do, but actually the understandings of the nuts and bolts of the other dimensions of actually running the business, marketing, sales, blah, 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 all the things that go with it.
Yeah.
So that was, something which I had to get up to grips with again straight away.
It's the typical Michael Gerber scenario, isn't it, that he talks about in the E-Myth, the book that he wrote, around people that are more technicians, pie makers, or whatever it is they do. Then they go and do what they love, and then the rest of the business kind of makes the thing they love the chore rather than the joy. And then the business suffers as a result of that. And whilst the business is suffering, then the joy that's going into the pie making, everything else, you lose your customers, you lose your staff, and it doesn't work at all, does it? And as a business coach, so many people come to me and they say, I don't know how to do business. I don't know what the right thing is. And it's a bit like tech, there's always more than one way to do things. You can do it this way, or you can do it this way, or you can do it this way. And some people just want to know the right way. And the right way is the way that works for them half the time. And you have to kind of experiment, and you have to try things out, and you have to give it a go. Having an understanding and education around what makes it all fit together and tick is great. But there is no right way around it. And I generally say to people, it's common sense. So if you want to earn an income, you have to sell your widgets. And if you have to sell your widgets, you've got to tell people about it. So you've got to find people that want your widgets. And then all the dynamics go together. And it isn't rocket science. But while people are kind of panicking about, I don't know what to do, they end up doing nothing, don't they? And they sit and they in this downward spiral of, okay, I'll do social media because that's marketing. And then they're so busy on Facebook reading other people's posts and liking them. And they go, all right, I've done my social media today. Without actually thinking of common sense.
This is an interesting question of being the all-rounder that I was struggling, didn't really like in my consultancy, because you can't be good at everything. Actually, making yourself be good at sales, be good at marketing, be good at this, be good at that, be good at the other, doesn't work.
No.
Because you start resenting it, you start putting things off that you don't like. You start resenting it because you're no good at it and you think you can't do it, and therefore things don't work. Which brings us to the whole collaboration piece, of course. But you know, it took me a while to learn that, and I learnt it running my business, which is then when I realised why I was so disillusioned and hating the consultancy work, or grew to hate it because of it. And I think it wasn't until I started my own business and I realised, you know, the whole process of understanding what you're wired to do, talent dynamics, and all that sort of thing. That was actually quite an eye opener to me, and it answered the questions of why I was a little bit out of place in the consultancy world, with them trying to mould the perfect consultant.
And also, many people who think, oh, I'm no good at that. There's something wrong with me. I should be good at that. I have to learn how to do that. So they'll struggle to learn something that naturally isn't a fit for them. And then the thing they are really good at, they neglect, and then they're not, and they lose that ability as well. So you're kind of muddying the waters. And basically, from talking about earlier, we were having a conversation about mental health awareness week. You know, poor mental health stems from feeling that you're worthless and you're not good enough. So it's like a vicious circle that it's going to make you ultimately ill if you feel like you're scrabbling to learn and do things all the time. That is not to say, of course, that you can use wealth dynamics as an excuse for, oh, well, if I'm a supporter, that means I don't have to be a mechanic. No, it means that you've got to be aware of what's required, because you need a mechanic to support you in what you're doing. But actually, we still have to kind of have an understanding. Going back to Michael Gerber, you can't abdicate your responsibility in any area of your business. Because then if somebody comes in and takes over, the minute they disappear for whatever reason, then you're, I don't know what they're doing. So when I very first started in my coaching business, I got my husband to support me and help me on doing the accounts, because I'm not a money person. It doesn't excite me. It's not my thing. But one, I needed to know an idea of it, and also to be able to help my clients around it as well. So he taught me how to do it. And I'm like, right, I get it now. I understand it. So simple. Do this spreadsheet, do that spreadsheet, look at Sage, got it. Now can you do it, please? And then I passed it on because I knew what was going on. But I couldn't have abdicated responsibility until such time as I knew. And it's that kind of, it's not a need for control, but I think it's empowerment by having that awareness of what's going on around you.
That what you just said actually is a beautiful sort of story around what I'm trying to achieve, which, you know, we're obviously going to come on to. But the message is that be good at what you do and understand what you do, but also understand where you fit into the bigger picture and where other people can actually do something better than you.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful. It's invigorating when you get to that point and you understand that is what I'm good at. This is where I'm good at. This is where I fit in for my clients. Okay, but actually the power is then knowing when to then work with other people who can fit the jigsaw together, and essentially that's a powerful realization. Yeah,
definitely. And then of course understanding the power of collaboration in order to make those connections work. Because all very well going, I'm this sort of person, you're that sort of person, and you're that sort of person, we should work together. But then if there's all the baggage going on at the background and they haven't dealt with some of that through personal development, then there's always going to be a clunky space of like, and before you know it, there's like, well, she says she was going to do this and he said he was going to do that, and it's not working. And you're like, well, what, collaboration is such a good idea, so why doesn't it work? And it's understanding that background behind it. So you had an experience earlier, you telling me about a show that you went to, and I'm just going to touch on it briefly, how some people are more receptive to what you're about than others. And it's interesting that some people are kind of like, well, we find it as well, BeCollaboration. You get two business coaches in a room, and sometimes it'll be like, oh, you're a business coach over there, I'm not talking to you because you're potentially going to take my clients. Or in a BeCollaboration room, you go, oh, you're a business coach, come sit, let's talk, let's find out what you do, let's see if we can work together. So it's interesting how different people have different perceptions of we can help each other as opposed to you're going to steal my clients. And so it's the same thing, you're going to work together, but you've got the different dynamics. Tell us what you're trying to achieve within the fitness professionals industry, and explain kind of what you come up against when people are who don't understand what you're trying to get at.
Okay, so my particular specialism is soft tissue work. I trained as an injury rehab soft tissue specialist, and we've had this conversation before. What was frustrating me was the fact that I could do what I did. I was good at what I did, but it didn't always fix the problem. And the hierarchy in our industry basically says, well, if you can't fix the problem, then you sort of pass it up the chain to somebody who's more senior than you, which is important. Don't get me wrong. That's really, really important when something's important enough that it needs solving and you can't, so you pass it to somebody else. But my take on this is, and the science that I've been associated with helping to develop says that everybody in our industry has a particular niche place that they are good at. Doesn't matter what they are, okay? But actually, to solve most rehab problems, soft tissue rehab problems, requires the input of several different specialisms. Right. Okay. So it's like going into hospital. You're under a consultant, but that the team that's working with you to get you out of hospital is sort of multidimensional, multidisciplined. Okay, and they meet up on a regular basis and have multidisciplinary meetings where they talk about you as a patient. Consultant's there technically in charge, but he's not there in a superior capacity. He's just there as okay, this is what we're going to do next, and that may be handing over to somebody else who takes charge for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Someone has to be in charge, don't they, from that point of view? Yeah. Somebody has to be the person that takes all the information with agreement and then moves it on. Somebody has to be that the buck stops.
No, that doesn't happen in our industry at all.
Right.
Okay. Mainly because of the way the industry is consumed.
Yes.
Okay? We have a musculoskeletal injury, we do something with our back or knee or whatever, we will go to whoever we've always gone to, and it'll be one of a set of professionals. But that doesn't always work, and because what everybody does works, but it works at the right time for the right thing, and plugging them together in the right order is what's important.
Right. So what about a classic example? Let me interrupt you briefly. A classic example when I come across networking, and you get the chiropractor and you get the osteopath. And to the novice, the outsider, they both do the same thing, slightly differently. And the osteopath will say, oh, the chiropractor is all about cracking things and that's not safe. And the chiropractor will say, but sometimes you've just got to get in there and get what the problem is and get it sorted. And the osteopath is too soft and doesn't get it done. They always criticize each other. They never go, actually, osteopaths are really good. Or the osteopath will never go, well, sometimes, the chiropractor just really understands. Never, ever, ever have I heard acknowledgement of they do a good job or they get the job done or yes, it would be great to work with somebody. They've always been anti the other. Like every single chiropractor is rubbish according to this one osteopath, and every single osteopath is rubbish considered by this chiropractor. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. And so my mind, and I know many people said I'm a bit of a Pollyanna, but if you're both helping a person, there must be things you've learned. And I know the historical side of where they both started from, it's a bit like Montessori, or different people are working together to understand the whole philosophy, and it's birthed, and then one goes off in one direction, one goes off in another direction, and you end up with two different practices.
Yeah.
But this is what you're approaching every day, is that so many people are ingrained in their industry with I'm right, you're wrong.
Totally. But also the way we consume, because as a person who needs to consume somebody in the industry, we will generally go where historically our family have gone.
Yes. There'll be family church, really, isn't it?
Yeah, we technically will have a family or a group that tend to always go to osteopaths and would never go to chiropractors, just to use the two that you mentioned. And there'll be the same tribe who will always go to chiropractors and not to osteopaths. The reality of the situation is they do different things in a different way. And actually, for a lot of problems, musculoskeletal problems, you actually probably need a bit of one and a bit of the other.
Right.
Okay, done in the right order at the right time. Think about it as an onion with lots of layers. Okay, you can't get to the layer that's 5 layers down until you've peeled back the first 4. But it might be one of those professionals who needs to peel back the first couple of layers, and another professional in a different discipline who needs to peel back the next 2 layers before you get to the one that's actually driving the problem, which needs could require another professional entirely. Okay, now there's a whole host of cost issues here, because most of us don't tend to have the money to be able to go and see this professional, then this professional. Okay, I get that, but that's something that can change. But we also need to change the fact that all of the professionals in the space, chiropractors and osteopaths included, but also all the others, and I include exercise professionals as well, so personal trainers, Pilates, massage therapists, the whole space in this industry. They all have their particular layer of the onion which they need to unpeel.
Right.
And it depends how those layers have been put on that onion as to which order they're all needed to. In a sense, we need to get to a point where they're all working together. Okay, and we're getting to the point now where we can work out what the layers of the onion are and who needs to do what at a given point in time. All right, which is really, really powerful.
Yeah.
I've come across clinics where you've got multiple professions. You've got the chiropractors and osteopaths, you've got massage therapy, and you've got the others as well. Lots of others as well, all working in the same space environment. And the client doesn't join doesn't join to sign up with the osteopath or the chiropractor or the physio or the massage therapist. They join the establishment, okay? And then somebody takes ownership of you and your problem to get you from where you are now to where you want to be. It's exactly like the hospital multidisciplinary team.
Yeah.
Yeah. The consultant takes ownership of getting you from A to B, but actually that consultant's involvement physically will be very small.
Yeah.
It'll be the other professionals in the team who will slot in at the right time. So in our industry, we need to mirror that somehow. Okay. So have
you seen this in practice already? Is it up and running somewhere?
Absolutely.
Working well. And it's just about educating the others in order for them to realise the benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. There is some common understanding, common language, common tools that need to be developed across the professionals so they can work and talk to each other in an effective way. Yes, and that's where I'm working. That's what I'm doing with, a lot of is building this language and understanding with people. But ultimately, I'm not a chiropractor, I'm not an osteopath, I'm not a physio. But they've got skills that I don't have, and I accept that, but I know where each fits into the layers of the onion. Yeah, so it's then a case of getting them all talking together and working together in this way.
If you were to put their hat on in the space that they are in at the moment and say, well, why would I have my client go to 2 or 3 other people in this little consortium when I know what's wrong with them already because I'm a professional, and I know I can fix them without them having to go anywhere else? Why would I give that person away? What would you say to that?
It's a really important question. We've got to break down these barriers in the way we're trained. Yeah, we've got to get it, which is why I'm talking to training providers. So I'm not personally talking to physio, osteopath, and chiropractic training providers. I'm talking to personal trainer, Pilates, massage therapy, sports therapy, and other people in that space. They're the training providers, and that's the message we need. When I was trained as a soft tissue specialist, at no time was there ever a discussion about anybody else in the industry and what they could do to help me. Not once. Not once.
What a shame.
And so it needs to start. We're not going to. We're not going to solve this overnight. We're not going to solve it quickly. But we need to go to the root. We need to go to the training. If we really want to make an impact, we need to go to the training, which is why I'm talking to the training providers that I am. I was at a conference last week and spent a lot of time talking to training providers. But yeah, it's a. I don't have an answer. All I know is that the science and the evidence is pointing to the model I've elaborated. Yeah. We need to get that out there and being talked about and discussed. But also the tools involved in that need to be starting to be trained in the route training providers actually doing the training out there.
Because what is levelled at some fitness professionals is that you get me in, maybe I've got an ache here, and then 6 months later I'm still coming back to you to make sure it doesn't come back. It's that kind of fear-based selling in order for that person, that professional, to have a client ongoing. And because they have to win their own clients, and because they're not great in business and therefore probably not great at marketing or great at sales, there is that fear factor and that scarcity mentality of, I have to keep this person for as long as I possibly can, as opposed to thinking of the moral, actually they're okay now. Maybe just come back once every 6 months if you need to, but you're doing okay. You don't need to keep coming back. So a lot of people are aware that there's the door is always left open for them to kind of, I think you probably should need to come back. I was really reassured by one lady that I went to. I had whiplash, and I went to her session, and she was a specialist in myofascial release, and she said, you'll probably need 3, maybe 4 sessions from what you've told me. And I was walking around like this. I was, struggling. But she caught me like the day after it had happened. And so she did all the exercise things that you have to do and place your hands on me and all the rest of it. And I went away going, oh, gosh, that feels good. And she said, yeah, I'll see you next week. And then we'll measure up what we need to do for the other 3 or 4 sessions. Well, I saw her the following week and she said, how's it going? And I said, I'm pretty good. I'm fine. So she said, I think you might be done. So she said, spent 10 minutes going over. And she went, no, that's fine. You're off. It's wrong. Don't want to see you again. Mm-hmm. How many people do you think I've told about this woman? Because she was, I wasn't caught into 6 weeks worth, which potentially, she was just giving me the background of, depends how bad it is, but, we maybe have to see you for a few weeks. But it was 1 and a bit sessions. It wasn't even 1.5 sessions. And she didn't even pay me for this, charge me for the second session. I was in there, yep, you're good enough, off you go. Yeah. It was a breath of fresh air, absolutely. There are people out there, don't get me wrong, there are wonderful professionals out there that really understand the value of morally looking after your clients and turning them into raving fans rather than trying to keep them that bit longer because they've got money in their pockets. Mm-hmm. And yet, on the other hand, I've also been to people where, you should come back next week. You need to come back in. I reckon you should come every 3 months. And whatever it is, there's been this little guilt factor of, if you want to be walking, if you honestly, your back is in such a state, you should be doing this. And if you want to be able to walk when you're, and I was like, whoa. And the minute they start putting that little bit of pressure on, my sensibilities go, ooh, okay, I'll go and find another discipline and find out a bit more about that and what I can do. So where you're at is very similar. Hang on 1 second. That was fun. Little interlude there. I just realised my camera was going, and I thought I plugged in on my laptop the cable, but I forgot to turn it on the wall. So what you are going through is very similar to BeCollaboration, because there are an awful lot of people that come to us and they're in that fear and scarcity mentality. We've had a printer sit in the room going, yeah, but if you get another printer, how am I going to make any money out of this? It's not about
which is why certain business networking organisations out there have a model where they only have one of each profession.
Exactly. And the competition, keeping competition in the world at the height it is at the moment, is keeping people in fear and keeping people in this scarcity mentality, which doesn't serve any of us. If we have the mentality of abundance, if we realise that there's plenty out there for everybody, guarantee, I mean, what's the statistics about people with bad backs in this country? Whether you're an osteopathic, chiropractor, myofascial release practitioner, or blah, 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 whatever else it is, there's plenty of people out there with bad backs. It's the way we are at the moment. The stress causes it. We're all sitting on our computers all day long. You don't have to be bothered. All you have to do is make sure that people know about you and are sharing about you. And the best way to make people share about you is have raving fans who are your clients. Every time you have a client, you give them the ultimate experience and they go and tell 20 people about it. Or better still, they give you a testimonial. And they pop it on your website and they pop it on wherever else they can find, Facebook or whatever. But understanding that they can go, oh, I don't need to be in competition. Oh, it's lovely. I can give of myself. I charge what I'm worth. I attract rather than go to and grab sales. I attract the right people to me. And then
you picked up on charging. I mean, to be honest, the vast majority of people in our industry, their only guide to what they should be charging is looking around to see what everybody else is charging and then making a decision about where you want to be. Do you want to be in the middle? Do you want to be at one end or the other? And that tends to be a key. So, you have osteopaths, chiropractors, physios, just to pick because you started talking about them, all basically charging roughly the same sort of thing locally because they can't possibly be more expensive because nobody would come to me. Well, actually, we know that that's bollocks. It just doesn't work like that. People will go where the success is. They will pay what somebody's worth if that person is standing out as somebody who gets great results.
Well, from my experience, whenever I've had somebody in like this that I've been coaching, that's one of the first conversations we have. I look at them and say, how much are you charging? And you need to put your prices up. And there's this kind of, what's she saying to me? She's gonna. And anyway, every single time they've done it, whoever I've asked, I think you put your prices up. Every single person's gone, it wasn't a problem. I really thought it was going to be a problem. I thought I was going to lose loads of clients. I thought this, whatever. All the chimp brain going crazy. You can't do that. This is going to happen. It didn't happen. And they're, 15-20% of their income goes up almost overnight just because they are charging what they're worth. Absolutely what they're worth. And it goes back to this self-worth kind of thing, isn't it? If you don't have self-worth, then you're not going to want to collaborate with somebody because you feel like they're taking something from you. But if you know what your value is and it's going through a process to understand your value, then working with other people, it's complementary. It's working together. They do the stuff you don't like, you do the stuff that you don't, you do the stuff that you like, and you're stronger. Together, the client gets a better deal. And if we all focus on the client first and us second, we create amazing opportunities along the way. That's what I love about collaboration. It means you've got so much more potential.
Oh, absolutely, totally. And they stand out. They stand out from their competition like a beacon. Yeah, it's even walking through a door. I've had people say to me, "Oh, your energy's great," and it's like, well, you know that you're good at what you do, so you're kind of proud of what you do. So your head up, shoulders back, looking out. And where people that are insecure and not sure, if, as you were saying, in a certain organisation, they have to do a 60 seconds. In order to network and tell people about their worth, they kind of shuffle and they mumble and they forget to say their name and they forget to say who they can help, and because there's just this insecurity that's there all the time. So being in a place where there is no other chiropractor or no other osteopath or whatever, it's a safe space for them, and they kind of need a safe space. What you and I are trying to do is let them know they don't need a safe space. They're protecting themselves from nothing. The threat that they think is there actually doesn't exist. Totally.
And there might be 1 or 2% of people out there just to strike people up and, take clients and whatever they can do to down you. But you know what? I think most of those people are imaginary. I've never come across somebody that callous that actually goes, oh, you're an osteopath, I'm a chiropractor, I'm going to get to know you because I'm going to steal your clients. Doesn't happen.
No, I don't.
You're confident in yourself and you know what your value is, you've got nothing to fear. You've got nothing to fear. So, Simon, tell me, what's your ultimate dream with what you're trying to achieve? How do you see it panning out? Tell us your big vision.
Changing an entire industry to the way that industry is modelled, the industry is trained, and how we consume it. I mean, that's the dream. And to be honest, right now I'm not working at the physiochiropractic osteopathic level for all the reasons that you've elaborated earlier. There are some low-hanging fruit, which is the exercise, the exercise space and the manual therapy space,
right?
Because that's a massive, big win here. Let me say something here. Over 90%, actually, it's about 92% of every single common injury scenario, back, knee, shoulder, whatever, that we all get. Okay, over 92% of those don't just happen. Okay, you were almost predestined for it to happen because of things that happen in your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And one of the big things that I'm working with personal trainers around is actually none of them are trained to actually work out what the right exercises for the client should be. Okay.
Okay. That seems so logical. Why would they not know?
Well, that's really good. Because they're not trained to do it. Okay. I've just been running a thread in one of my Facebook groups, which is aimed at the personal trainers, saying, how do you know whether squatting, lunging, or stepping, are right for the person you're giving that exercise to?
Yeah.
And the sort of answers I'm getting back are, well, if it doesn't look right or it's painful for them. All right.
Interesting.
Now, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Now, so what I'm teaching personal trainers to do, and I'm working with personal trainers directly and also through training organisations, is actually learn how to work out whether, for an example, stepping, lunging and squatting, but you can apply it across any exercise. I'm just picking those because they're common. Okay, so new client comes to PT and you basically do some things with them, all right, and work out to say, okay, stepping, lunging and squatting isn't right for you right now, but D, E and F are fine. So I'm going to build your training program around D, E and F, not A, B and C. They're not trained to do that right now. That's some of the training that I give them.
Wow.
Now, some personal trainers will not have the right head on their shoulders to do that analytical work, and that's absolutely fine. Some will, some won't. It sort of requires a why mentality and a bit of an engineering mindset to work that out. Just the human body is a machine. And some personal trainers will be fine doing that sort of thing and some will not. But where they can start to collaborate to make this happen is to build a joint venture with another professional where they work, like a massage therapist. Okay. All right. Who quite often PTs and massage therapists work in the same physical space.
Yeah.
Okay. But they don't work with each other. They think that, okay, one is exercise and one's when there's a problem.
Yes.
So I'm changing that dynamic completely and saying, actually, all right, the massage therapist has got certain hands-on skills which you as a personal trainer don't have. Okay, so why not develop a working relationship with the massage therapist, and then I can train. It benefits me because I can train both of them, get this common language, common understanding, so they're all talking the same language. But actually, when a high-end product might be when you take on a new client who joins a gym and a personal trainer takes on a new client, so as part of his take-on process says, right, you're going to spend 45 minutes with this person over here who's a massage therapist because they're going to give me the information about what exercises are right for you right now. Now, that's not booking them in for a massage.
No.
That's not taking them as a client. I want to get them as a client so I can get them on my massage bench and do a massage, because it's got nothing to do with massage. It's just the skill set that professional's got works so beautifully with the exercise professional. And this could be a Pilates teacher just as equally. It doesn't have to be a personal trainer. It could be anybody in the exercise space, working out what that client is best, what's best for them right now to achieve their objectives.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the PT then takes over to build the exercise program.
And then potentially, ongoing from that, you need the nutritionist to build in the diet, because if they're still shoving 20 donuts down their face after a training session, they're kind of wasting their energy in the gym in the first place. So
there is the whole biopsychosocial aspects of this, of course. But I'm starting with low hanging fruit, which is just what exercises are right for you. Now, come back to what I said: 92% of all injury is caused by essentially people doing the wrong exercises when they go to the gym or their exercise classes.
Yeah.
Okay. But nobody knows this because it's not visible. You can't look at them. I can't look at you and say, oh, you're going to get back pain. All right. But there are certain things you can do now. And this is what I teach these professionals to do, is to pick up the markers that say you realise you're actually at quite a high risk of back pain or knee pain or whatever down the line, or knee injury or back injury. Okay. So right now we won't give you those exercises, but we'll give you a whole shed of other exercises which are fine for your body right
now. Yeah.
So it's building these. Yes, I've got a grand vision of changing an entire industry, but we need to work with the low-hanging fruit. And the easiest one to work with is the personal trainer, exercise professional, Pilates specialist, whatever, okay, and the soft tissue specialist, because they've got totally complementary skill sets, okay, that can deliver real benefit to each other. Okay.
Yeah.
So that, turn it on its head. As a soft tissue specialist, is where I started developing these ideas. When I ran my clinic as a soft tissue specialist, and I learned some of the stuff I now know, I knew when I needed to engage the exercise professional,
right,
to help take their rehab to another level.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would go and find one of the PTs and says, right, for the next couple of weeks, can you two work together? And I'll check in on you and I'll see you in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks or whatever. But at that point, I handed them over to the personal trainer. And that wasn't handing the client over in a sense of, oh, I've lost that client now. It was simply me saying, actually, I know that I'm not an exercise professional, but there's 6 of them sitting out there in the gym. Let me go out there. Let me engage with them at the right time for this client. So I've done my bit, and then hand them over to the soft tissue specialist. And then they'll probably come back to me to do another bit. But I needed the exercise piece sorted, and that was not my skill set.
Exactly.
So this low-hanging fruit of the soft tissue specialist as I was and the exercise professional, it's a really, really powerful one.
And absolutely, and also the fact that you had this abundance mindset that they'll probably come back to me at some point. But you're doing the best for the client rather than working out how you can keep some money in your back pocket. I did that with a client who came to me about her business, but it was pretty. You could see quite clearly that she wasn't functioning very well. We tried to work out why she wasn't functioning very well. Obviously, you do a bit of personal development with people. But actually, her main core that she acknowledged was the menopause was hitting her really hard. So within our collaborative community, we had the menopause maven, Carol May, and she took her on and was able to support her and help her. And then at some point, she'll come back to me and, we can work on the business again. But while she was focusing on, I have so many hot flushes and I can't do this and I can't do this and I can't do this, there was no point trying to help her with the business while she was focusing on all of those things. And at the end of the day, it's what that person, how she can be helped, because otherwise, why are we here? If you take money out of the equation, most people would do things differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting.
It is a mindset. It's a mindset which you either have or you don't have. You can learn it. I've learned it, by learning some hard lessons.
Well, I think fundamentally most people don't have it. I think in my experience, there are not many people that do have it. And it's not surprising when you consider throughout our life, we have been taught to be separate. If you look at the 1980s, it was all about me, not in my backyard, the yuppies, the NIMBYs, it was all about, I'm going to be a success at any cost. And it was, let's cut down the other people. I'm going to be fantastic. And it's all me, 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 me. And that has had a hangover from that, is that we are worried about competition. You know, we've got mortgages that we have to pay, so we've got this fear of, I'm going to lose the roof over my head unless I keep the money. Then everyone's being encouraged to get into debt, so therefore there's more fear because you can't make the monthly payments on the credit cards, and nobody seems to be having the mindset that we had 50 years ago after the war of make to amend. Oh, no, I have to have that new phone. I know I haven't got any money, but you have to have it. It's for my business. Well, no, you don't. You just need a phone that works. You don't need to have the all singing, all dancing version. And it's really hard to see. I mean, I've got friends, their daughter, who is stunning, still has to have the sort of the Essex look of the big lips, and she's got some Botox going on. I'm like, what? How old is she? 22 years of age, and she's messing about with her face already, and she's beautiful, because that's what other people do. And you're in this kind of social prison of not quite keeping up with the Joneses, but it's like, that's what people do, so that's what I'd better do. And it's just so sad that the media is teaching us this stuff. Politics is teaching us that it's a dog-eat-dog world. Our education system is, you know, the pressure that is put on young people today. I heard an interview on the radio about, you know, they're going through their exams at the moment, and the pressure that's being put on them is phenomenal. And I did my GCSE in maths when I was 32, and it nearly killed me. I'm not a maths kind of person, but I was so nervous, it was ridiculous. And I had to tell myself, nobody is going to die if I do not get this piece of paper. It was very important to me. I wanted it in order to be a teacher. But it's just the pressure that is external pressure. And then if you add in the mix of social media into all of this, especially for the younger generation, the millennials that are out there, the pressure that is put on people, it's so you have to protect yourself. You have to make sure that nobody's going to have a go at you, that nobody's going to troll you, that nobody's going to pull you down. Because if you're pulled down, then emotionally you're fragile. And emotionally, if you crack, where do you go from there? So the thought of opening yourself up to people trying to collaborate with you in a way of going, well, I can do this, what can you do? Oh, I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm told I'm good at that, but well, not really. And so many people just are so insecure about their value, about their talent, about who they want to be, and who they're aiming to emulate. And so many young people as well are emulating the wrong sort of people. I mean, the stuff that's on television is just ridiculous. So it's really difficult for people to come out of that mindset space that they've been immersed in and then see the world in a different way. Do you know what? We're all human beings on the same planet, and actually we're all connected. And if I'm horrible to you, that's going to have karma going around, and that's going to have a pay it forward. And if I get upset by someone, then that's lowering the consciousness of the whole of the planet. Understanding the fundamentals of who you are being is having a massive impact on everyone else around you. Knowing that love is a superpower, and if you put love out, that's what you get back. Rather than you're on your own and you're struggling on your own, feel like nobody loves you. It's because people are too scared to kind of be open about it.
But also this whole business about the energy that you project is what you get back is, you know, considered woo and just total rubbish out there by most people.
So who says it's woo in the first place? There are people that are feeding all this information in, and there are an awful lot of people who are adamant that they know that it's accurate, that it works, and this is, it's just so frustrating that those kind of stories are squashed along the way, and that's why we're not connected anymore. We're not connected in the way we used to be. So when I was growing up, we knew practically everybody down our road. It was multinational. We had every nation under the sun down our road in East End of London. And I was so lucky to grow up in that environment and that space. So that I could walk to school at the age of 5, round the corner, cross over a road at the age of 5, because I knew that there was my mum there, there's my aunt there was my nan there, there's Mrs. So-and-so there was Mr. So-and-so there, and there were people that if I needed anything, I could pop in, knock on the door, and there'd be somebody to look after me. There was none of this fear that, oh, you can't go to school on your own. I know it's only, half a mile, but I'll take you in the car. All of this kind of predicated fear of what might happen, which is fed to us by the media on a regular basis. And people go into London, it's like, oh, you're worried about a terrorist attack. Well, actually, you're more likely to be killed by overeating and obesity than you are from blooming terrorists. So it doesn't stop you having that third helping of whatever it is, because that fear isn't strong enough. The media hype it up, hype it up, hype it up. So I think most people aren't able to see collaboration as a way forward. They just see it as a bit, no, I've still got to protect myself. I can't open myself to that. I can't talk about love. It's too difficult. So we've got a massive mountain to climb in order to let people know that come over to this side. It's easier. If you can collaborate on a project, on a business project where you've got 2 or 3 people that are really good at what they do, they value what you've got to do, they value your input, and together you create something for the benefit of other people that wasn't there in the first place. And you're like, wow, I'm clever, I can do this, this is amazing. Then you can see it works.
Yeah.
We have seen it works, you have seen it works. And that's why you're attracted to BeCollaboration, because to you, you've come out of the bubble, you've come away from the corporate world, and you've come along to something going, do you know what, would be really good with collaboration. And you see it the same way that I do. It's not rocket science. It's like, of course it's better with collaboration. But that doesn't necessarily mean that collaboration is easy, because you could put your personal trainer with your soft tissue specialist or your massage therapist, and they might not get on initially. And they don't know why they don't get on initially. But they don't get on initially because of all the baggage they've got going on before they even arrived. And understanding how to overcome that, that's the clever stuff. Because most people come against a problem and they go, well, no, it's not working, I'm going, and they're off. Rather than going, there's a problem, okay, what can we do to solve it? Let's see if we can solve it, and oh, look, we're stronger together. Yeah, then we could do this, and then we can do something special. So,
which is why I concentrate on getting people talking a common language.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter whether we're trained to be a personal trainer or trained to be a chiropractor, we're all trained using different language. And it's very, very stovepipe language. Yeah, the osteopaths and the physicians, we're all trained with specific language. But the irony here is that we're actually all working with the same thing. It's called the human body. The human body doesn't change, It's the language we apply in a very protective way often, because we start using technical language to bamboozle people. The best clients I had was ones where I stopped using technical language and I started using this common language which I've developed, and actually get the client to understand what's going on with them, because most clients with problems don't. No. Yeah. And get rid of all the solo language that we all use, replace it with a new language and a new understanding, which is totally science backed. It's not me just making it up. Then, so you get the professionals talking to each other using the same language, a language that the clients can also understand. Oh my God, it works. Yeah. It's when you have everybody, protecting their terminology and their labels and their language, because it's mine. It's my industry's one, and everybody else. It's a blanket, isn't it, as well? Yeah, it is a blanket. Yeah. What they're coming down to is, I'm right and you're wrong, because that makes everyone feel better. I think one of the biggest things that I learned is there is no right or wrong. No. It's all made up. Well, as I said right at the very beginning, I got injured. Yeah. It was a back injury. I got that playing badminton in a match. And I went to see lots of professionals. I'm not going to name them because it doesn't help. But every single person tried to tell me that it was something different using different language. And they all told me it was something slightly different in terms of the reasons for the problem. Yeah. I now know that actually none of them was right. Oh, wow. Okay. So you could have gone down the wrong road a lot of times. Well, I did go down the wrong road, and I had my problem repeatedly coming back time and time again for probably 4 or 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Yeah. It wasn't until I actually understood what the problem was, which through the training, the specialist training that I've done, and the people I collaborate with and work with, my mentors, I now don't get that problem anymore.
Wow.
So we're sort of fed as consumers in our industry, which by, you just got to put up with this. This is going to come back every 6 months.
Yeah. Yeah. So the money can still keep coming in.
Absolute rubbish. What's happening is that the people treating you are not actually hitting the right nail with the right hammer.
So
they're not actually working at the right layer of the onion, to go back to the analogy we used earlier.
Yes, yeah. So what do you say to these people who are living in fear, and they go, well, it's all very well for you to say that, but if I lose half my clients to this massage therapist or this osteopath instead of them coming to me, that's my living gone, I can't chance it. How do you persuade them to kind of come out of that mindset?
I don't. I only work with people that are already meeting me halfway.
Right.
I used to go, when I was running my clinic, and I used to go to local network meetings, the ones we've been talking about earlier, about the 67 pitch and all that. I would know within about 30 seconds of talking to somebody whether they were somebody I could work with as a client, not just as another professional.
Yeah.
Because they were so entrenched in their position, they weren't asking the question why. Or why have I got to go back every 6 months because it gets worse every 6 months, and go back to why? We don't. We just get into this loop of, well, that's what I've been told.
Yeah. And people give their trust over, don't they, so easily?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's like in my mum's generation, it was the doctor that they trusted. The doctor said this.
Yeah.
So therefore I've got to take these tablets. And then in their old age...
We used not to question the doctor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, she rebelled big time when she was 80. She was, I'm not taking those tablets. she kept, but all of a sudden, you get your bravery then, don't you, when you realise that actually these people who appear demand our respect but don't earn it.
I'll say something now to those people watching this. If you are currently struggling with a back problem or a knee problem or some other musculoskeletal problem, which keeps on coming back, whatever's being done is not right. There is no problem out there that should be coming back. If you find the right cause and do the right thing at the right time with the right professional, so they're hitting the right layer of the onion, the problem won't come back. All right.
Good point.
If it keeps on coming back, then whatever's being done is not right for your body right now.
Yes. Which is not to say it's not right at some point, but it's not.
Absolutely. I'm very careful here, because everything works out there. Everything in our industry works, but it generally has its best effect when it's done for the right client at the right time. And that's the truth of the matter. That's what science is very clearly telling us now. So if something keeps on coming back, and I start this right at the very beginning with somebody going to the gym who has really tight hamstrings. All right, very, very common. I start by actually saying there's no such thing as tightness, but I won't go there. Because there's not. It doesn't exist. Okay. But if they keep on coming back to the gym every 2 to 3 weeks and their hamstrings are just as tight as they were and they're never actually getting any better permanently, then the exercises they're doing for that body are wrong. It's simple. Same thing with somebody going to see a professional with a back problem or a knee problem. If it's not getting permanently better, all right, then what's being done is the wrong thing at the wrong time for you. It's not rocket science, but
exactly.
Yeah.
It's when you step back. So when you're in pain, it's hard to see the wood for the trees, isn't it? And you just go and you want it solved, and you'll try anything. And quite often you scattergun, so you don't know whether it was that worked or if it was that worked. And you've done too many things. But just by stepping back and actually going, okay, so what else could it be? And then just kind of analyze it, as you say. And if you're speaking to somebody that isn't trying to open your wallet, and they're just somebody that's genuinely keen to help you, that's a different conversation, isn't it?
It is totally
an easier conversation. Yeah, definitely.
So I haven't picked a difficult one to crack here.
No, but you know what? I admire your vision going forward, because whilst you can do the low hanging fruit and you can work on one-on-one, the technological world that we're in means that you can spread the word, whether it's through a Facebook group or podcasts like this, or wherever you want to take it. You have the potential, and then it becomes like what's a trickle at the beginning, where you get a few people going, I've heard about that Simon, and he does this and this and this, and actually I'm interested in what you're doing, and people start coming to you. After a while, it's a tsunami coming in your direction, because what you're doing is you're helping people see their world in a different way and a better way. And if you imagine you're not chasing the dollar, if you imagine you've got other people around you that want the same thing as you, if you imagine you've got clients coming to you that are really happy because they know you've got their best interests at heart, everything becomes easier. Everything becomes easier. It's a nicer place to go to work. You're not on your own. You've got other people to support you. You've got clients who are happy to recommend you and are raving fans for you. And you'll find you're getting more money in the long run. So why would you want to do it the old way? But it's just coming out of that, oh, this is what I know, this is what's working just about, not really, I should have more money, but I don't know, I can work more hours. So that's what I have to do, is I'll work on Saturdays and maybe Sunday morning. That's exhausting. Be brave enough to go, there is another way. And that's what you're sharing with people, to give them that opportunity to...
I know personal trainers who the entry level fee for starting to work with them is 4 figures.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you contrast that with personal trainers at most of the main gyms who you might pay £30 for a personal training session. The personal trainer gets about 8 of that.
Oh,
the rest
wow.
goes to the rest goes to the organisation.
Yeah.
And you contrast that, and that's huge. This is the difference here of somebody realising their value and what they charge because they get results. Okay. To somebody, most of the people starting out in the industry, they get carried up in this fear and scarcity thing because that's the environment in which they join.
Yeah, I know a guy about 4 years ago. I think he was charging something like £10,000 for a 6-week course. Yeah. What was really unusual about him is obviously he was collaborating with other people. There was a nutritionist he brought in, various other massage therapists and people. Yeah. But he also charged £2,000 on top. And that was a fee for damage limitation, damage to his reputation. Because if you're doing this course, you will come out and it will have worked for you. No options. Because you have done everything that you are told to do, exactly when you go to sleep, when you wake up, when you go to the gym, what you eat, everything that is done for you for 6 weeks or 12 weeks, whatever it is. And then you will get a ripped body and muscles and all the rest of it. But if you haven't done everything the way I told you to do, and at the end of the 6 weeks, 12 weeks, you haven't got this body that I'm telling you you're going to have, I'm going to keep your £2,000. Because you haven't done as you should have done, and my reputation is at stake. So I'm going to keep your money. If you have done it, I'll give you that £2,000 back. Cool. I don't think he gives much money back, to be fair. I don't think he keeps the £2,000. I think he gives most of it back because they are so thrilled with what he's done for them. And previous to that, I think he was charged about 45 quid for a session. And now it's like...
Going back to this energy thing, my colleague who was my very first coaching client, who I who's now coaches with me, the client she's attracting, and it is an attraction here because she's giving out a different message, saying different things, getting different results, doing things differently. Okay. Funny enough, the actual people that are appearing at her front door saying, "Can you help?" has completely changed. Funny that.
Usual. Interesting. So just to finish off, because we've been talking for nearly an hour, I would just like to find out, obviously you've become pivotal within the BeCollaboration community, but what would you like to see for you within BeCollaboration? How do you see it as helping you being part of the community?
At the moment, I'm in absorption mode. Really, yes, I've only been to 4 or 5, half a dozen meetings. So to be honest, I'm learning, and I learn something pretty well every meeting I go to. So I'm not really sure I have an answer to that. If we do another one of these in 6 months' time or a year, then maybe I'll have that answer. But because
That's
I think
a
it's,
good idea.
but I've already made some great connections from through it.
Yes.
And I've met some amazing people who and some of the language that's being used, I'm starting to use now, because, as I say, we're working two parallel paths here.
Yes.
So I hear something said by somebody who's nothing to do with my industry, but they say something in a particular way, using a particular type of wording. And I think, my God, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to say, but I've said it differently, and I'll try that. So I'm very much in learning mode at the moment, to be fair.
Lovely. Fantastic. Well, you've been learning wonderfully on a podcast, so thank you very much for coming along today. Just before we finish, just give us a little background about who Simon is, where he lives, and how to connect up with you. So have you got any family? Have you got any, throwing my camera around. Have you got any pets? Tell us a bit about you. Apart from badminton, do you still play badminton?
No, I don't really. It's something that's sort of a part of my life that's sort of gone now. I'm married to Jane. We live in Surrey. Got two grown-up kids who are in their early 20s. They've now moved away. We've got a bolt hole down on the south coast on Portsmouth Harbour where we're going to be going this weekend, where we just go and get out of the place. And so we'll be going down this weekend to spend the weekend down there. We try to go down there at least once a month, possibly twice a month.
Oh, yeah. It's not too far. How long does it take you to get there from Surrey?
Most of the time, about an hour and a half.
Okay. Our daughter lives in Portsmouth as well, so we often pop down there. Although pop is not the right word, really. But from Hertford to Portsmouth.
Yeah, a bit of a long train. So,
yeah.
I love photography. I love wildlife. We go out, we go to nature reserves. I do nature photography. We just enjoy getting out for walks and things. That's where I go when I want to be, get away from it all. Although, to be fair, running your own business, I find it quite, like most people, I find it quite difficult to switch off. So, but environment is everything. And simply, I'm here sitting at our house in Surrey. When we go down to the apartment on Portsmouth Harbour, the energy is completely different. The whole feeling of changing that environment from one to the other is huge.
Yeah. If you're into photography and you've got some pictures of nature, maybe pop those onto the platform at some point. It'd be lovely to see some of those and to share that kind of peace and tranquility and that vibe. I understand, because sometimes I just go for a walk into town and you go past a lilac tree or something. It's like, oh, so pretty. Just take a photo of it and it's nice to share. Okay, well, thank you. Lovely to have that time with you today, Simon, and find that actually we are so very aligned on a very similar mission. Wanting to help people to understand that they don't have to do it the way they've been currently doing it. So anybody that's watching, if they know of anyone in the fitness professional industry, maybe they would like to get in touch with Simon Wellsted. What's the best way to contact you, Simon?
Via the website is theintegratedfitpro.com.
Theintegratedfitpro.com. And is that for email as well, Simon at?
Yeah, Simon at theintegratedfitpro.com. Yeah, simple. Keep it simple. Always try to.
Yeah. Well, hopefully I'll see you at our BeCollaboration meeting soon, but thank you very much for coming along. Don't forget, if you're coming to a BeCollaboration meeting soon, we've got them at Hertford, Surrey, Liverpool on Friday, if you know anybody in the Liverpool area. That's the 17th of May is our launch, and the London meeting as well. Soon to be launching in Park Royal in September as well. So watch this space, a lot more meetings coming. If you can't get to a meeting, you can still join us on BeCollaboration Global on the Mighty Networks. If you just search for mightynetworks.com, go into that, and then search for BeCollaboration Global, and you'll find us. It's free to join at the moment, so go in there. You'll see some posts from Simon, you'll see some videos and posts from me and Erkan and many of the other collaborators. Learn a little bit about collaboration, find out what we love to do, find out what's a bit tricky and how we overcome some problems. it'd just be lovely to have you there. So hopefully we'll be in touch soon and follow on with the next podcast next time. That's Gill Tiney and Simon Wellsted from the Journey of Possibility podcast by BeCollaboration. Thank you for listening.